Look, all I can say for certain is that the thing that tried to kill me 6 nights ago was not a normal animal. I remember that the night was fairly cold as I went to take out the trash. The rain was pouring, gently but consistent, and I had foregone a jacket for the sake of getting the task over with quicker. It was one of those nights where the neighbors must have all needed to get into work or something early because the only lights I could see were the street lamps. I couldn't make out any lights in any windows, no TV, nothing. It was also unusually quiet too. Bugs normally make noise at all hours of the night here, but I couldn't hear a damn thing that night. I didn't pay it any mind. I needed to get to work early the next day, like everyone else. What I did pay mind to, however, was the inexplicable feeling of dread that I got as I walked back to my garage. It was almost like I was being watched by something, stalked even. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I looked around and saw nothing. Nothing among the trees, nothing among the houses. I tried to chalk it up to the heebie-jeebies about the night being unusually quiet or me being particularly cold without a jacket, but I could only shake the feeling when I got back into my garage. I let out a breath of relief as I made my way to the garage door gizmo. I went to press it, and that feeling, that same creeping paranoia that had overcome me outside, came back. I tried to steel myself, tried to convince myself that the feeling would go away when the garage door closed, and press the button. For some reason, this time, I felt the need to watch the door and make sure it closed. I never do that normally, but this creepy feeling was controlling me. The door was mostly closed when it made its presence known. It tried to scurry underneath, but it got stuck on the garage door. I couldn't get a good look at it at the moment. All I saw was the mess of animal limbs as it struggled under the weight of the door. At that point, I thought it was just some poor animal that was trying to get out of the rain. The animal managed to wriggle its way into my garage, and that's when I got a good look at it. I'm not someone who knows the critters all that well, but whatever it wasn't any animal I'd seen before. As it started to get its bearings and stand up, I saw that it was big as shit, like deer-sized, way bigger than should have been able to squeeze under that gap. Its front limbs were skinny, way too long for its body, and it had 5 long claws on 2 paws at the end of each. Its face had a long snout with way too many thin, needle-like teeth that were stained red. It was also missing a goddamn eye. The thing had long jet black fur that was matted and had a bunch of fleshy scars scattered throughout. This was not any normal animal. I was frozen. Just looking at the thing locked me in place like it was holding me with just its presence alone. No matter how much I wanted, my legs just wouldn't move. I watched it as it shook itself dry like a dog. For a second, I thought it might have actually just been trying to escape the rain. The more that I looked at it, the less frightening it became. It started to seem even friendly. Its sharp teeth started to look like a nice smile. Poor thing. I felt like I needed to get closer to it. It might have needed help or something. My body instinctively took a half step towards it, but then it looked at me. It took a couple of its own tertiary steps towards me, almost as if it were testing to see whether I'd run away. When I didn't, its needle smile seemed to grow a little wider. It lunged at me, all limbs and claws and gnashing teeth. In that moment, it was like all of my senses returned. That feeling of dread wasn't creeping anymore. It was everywhere in my body. I jumped back and into the open door to my basement, slamming it shut and locking it just as the thing landed where I was. I pushed my body against the door as the creature started slamming against it. The thing wasn't making any noise. All I could hear was the constant banging of its body on the door. I had options: a desk, some heavy boxes, and maybe some chairs if I positioned them right. But getting any of those would mean leaving the door, and I had no idea how long it would last with that thing trying to break it down. It slammed against the door again, harder this time. The door cracked, and the force of the impact knocked me off it. I scrambled back to the door as fast as I could, but I knew it wasn't lasting much longer. I had to make some type of choice quickly if I wanted even the slightest chance of surviving. The option that seemed the most reasonable in the heat of the moment was, Lord help me, trying to find a weapon to kill the thing. I didn't have much time to think because the thing slammed into the door one final time, busting it off its hinges. The door fell on top of me as I was thrown back once again. I shoved the door off of me as the creature stalked towards me. It definitely looked like it was smiling at me. It was moving slowly, creeping towards me. I think the thing was enjoying this. All of those warring feelings came rushing back as I looked at it. The creeping dread, the pity for the creature, and the desire to go closer to it. But the feeling that overcame me the most was a desperation to survive. I crawled back a few paces before I managed to get to my feet and make a break for the stairs. A searing pain shot through my leg. I looked back and saw that the thing had got me in the calf with its claws. I couldn't focus on that though. I had to stay alive, and I got to the stairs going as fast as I could with a wounded leg. I hobbled up the stairs as the thing chased after me. It was still slowly stalking me, like it wasn't in a rush, like it was fucking with me. Whatever fun this thing was having trying to kill me, I was going to use the extra time to my advantage. I knew that the kitchen was a little too far to get a knife, but I did have a closet with a toolkit inside, and that toolkit had a hammer. I struggled through the hallway, dragging my slashed leg as I went. I got to the closet with the toolkit and hid inside. Maybe, just maybe, I would be able to hide from the thing in the dark until it got bored and left. It was at that moment that I realized that the thing would definitely know where I was because my leg was for sure trailing blood. I fumbled around the closet for the toolkit. Once I had it, the hammer was easy to find because it was the heaviest thing in the box. I heard the creature finally make its way up the stairs. That's when I started to get a new feeling. It was almost like it was licking at the back of my brain, this overwhelming sense of inevitable failure. I swear I heard a whisper, something in my head telling me, "You cannot do this, give up." I heard the thing sniffing, likely my blood, and slowly making its way closer to the closet. For a minute, I did genuinely want to give up. Whatever was in my head was right. I was outmatched, I didn't know what the fuck I was dealing with, and I had left a red carpet right to me. I wanted to open the door and give myself to it, so I could be eaten or butchered or whatever it wanted to do to me. My hand was hovering by the doorknob when I heard its claws rap-tap-tapping against the door. That thing was right fucking outside. It would have been so easy to drop the hammer and let it take me, but I came to my senses at that moment. I didn't want to die, and I was sure as hell not going to let this thing kill me. If it did kill me, I wasn't going down without a fight. I gripped the hammer tighter and turned the doorknob. I threw the door open with all the power I had, hitting the thing in the face and staggering it back a few paces. I threw myself at it, swinging the hammer and cracking it in the snout, but falling face first into its fur. The thing pushed me off with force, sending me sprawling into my living room. I scrambled to my feet, ignoring the shooting pain in my leg. I couldn't let a wound and some blood loss get the better of me, just like I couldn't let this beast get the better of me. My living room was not the largest space, but it beat trying to fight that thing in a hallway. Fighting back must have enraged it because it actually let out a noise, the loudest roar I've ever heard in my life, and it lunged at me. I ducked under it and slipped in my own blood. Thankfully, it crashed into the wall and disoriented itself further. I got up and charged at it, bringing my hammer down on the back of its head. The thing whipped an arm back and threw me back again. This time, it recovered quicker. It pounced on me and pinned me by my shoulder. I switched the hand I had the hammer in and brought it down onto its arm to a loud crunch sound. The thing reared back and howled in pain as I made my move. I tackled the creature and held it down to the ground. I raised the hammer up and brought it down on its face. I brought it down again and again and again, trying to turn its skull into mush. I had to make sure this thing didn't survive. The creature flailed and howled as I struck it. Its good arm shot up and got me in the neck with a claw. I fell over, clutching my throat and kicking my legs. I found some comfort, some peace in my last moments, in the fact that I knew the thing was dying right next to me. That's when I heard them. Sirens. I couldn't tell what type of sirens they were, but somebody must have heard that thing screaming and called 911. At that point, I had to laugh. It was more of a wet gurgle than a laugh, but it was all I could muster. They couldn't have gotten here sooner. My vision faded to black as I heard my front door being busted down. I woke up in a hospital. I struggled to open my eyes in this new environment. The bright lights, sterile smell, and beeping machines were already overwhelming. My goodness! I heard a voice say, "Doctor, get in here. He's awake." I opened my eyes more to see a nurse standing next to me. He was a man that was maybe in his 50s, graying hair, purple scrubs, and 95 mask covering most of his face. I didn't know how long he had been there, but he looked like he'd had a long day. The doctor that came in looked damn near identical to the nurse, except he was wearing a lab coat and no mask. They looked like they could be brothers from what I could make out. I realized that I was all bandaged up. My leg was wrapped up, and I could barely move my neck from all the bandages on it. The doctor sat down on a stool and rolled next to me. "I'm Dr. Harris, and that's Nurse Jacob," the doctor said in a warm voice. "Son, how are you feeling?" "Like absolute crap," I replied. "What happened to me?" "You were out for a few days after an attack. The official police report says it was an animal," Dr. Harris said. "They're thinking maybe it was some type of animal with mange or something like that." "That's bullshit," I said. "That thing was not an animal." "That's what I said when I saw the photos of it," Nurse Jacob interjected. "Jake," Dr. Harris sighed, rubbing his face with a gloved hand, "let's not peddle the conspiracies in front of the patient, please." "Listen, Ben, you know that the whole diseased animal thing the cops are trying to pull is only to keep the public from panicking," Nurse Jacob argued. "Mr. Langley here needs to know that somebody believes him, so he doesn't think he's crazy." Dr. Harris sighed again and stood up. "We're going to check up on you again in a few minutes, son. Give you some time to wrap your head around everything," Dr. Harris said. "But for what it's worth, I think the police are full of shit too. They left me to the white noise of vents and the sting of antiseptic. I tried to swallow and felt gauze scrape my throat. The floor tugged when I shifted. There was a dry taste of latex that somehow lived in the air. A TV in the corner showed a muted cooking show, clean hands, clean knives, slices that made perfect sense, and that bothered me in a way I can't explain. When I finally looked around, I noticed a laminated sheet taped to the back of the door. Not the standard visiting hours thing. Handwritten, laminated after. Corners peeling like it had been grabbed too many times. A thick black marker had bled through each line. Rule 1. Keep the curtain closed after 2:11 a.m. If someone tries to open it, press the call button and say privacy. Rule 2. If your door clicks twice and then stops, do not answer. Do not speak. Rule 3. Count fingers. If a staff member shows fewer than 5 on each hand, pretend to sleep. Rule 4. If your monitor flatlines without sound, hold your breath and stay still until it resumes. Rule 5. Do not pick anything up from the floor after midnight. Rule 6. If offered a new wristband, refuse unless Dr. Harris is present. Rule 7. Avoid anyone with dry shoes during a rainstorm. The first feeling I had was a laugh pressed against a wound. Hospital humor, maybe, or some bored night nurse getting their kicks. But my mouth went dry because it was raining. I could hear it ticking the window like fingernails on plastic blinds. And the curtain was half open. The planting started then, though I didn't know to call it that yet. There was a little pink post that stuck to my four-pole. Order new batteries for the garage opener. My handwriting. I must have scribbled that days ago, stuck it somewhere stupid, and now it floated here like a jellyfish. The ink had run where drops hit it, lines fanning out like frost cracking a windshield. The dot of the I in batteries had bled into a small star. I pressed the call button. A chime went somewhere. A light turned on above the door. When the door opened, it clicked once, sharp, clean, and stopped. Then another click, and it didn't open. I held my breath without thinking because Rule 2 had grabbed my eyes and wouldn't let go. The third click never came. The curtain breathed in with the AC. I didn't move. A minute later, normal knock, normal open, normal feet. Squeak, squeak of wet soles. Dr. Harris again, hair damp, shoulders flecked with rain. Jacob behind him, paper coffee cup, a smear of sleep under both eyes. "How's the pain?" Harris asked. Manageable, I lied. What's with the rules? He didn't look at the door. He looked at me too hard, like he was deciding something bigger than it sounded. Night shift notes, he said. Some patient's panic. Some need structure. He rolled closer. It's better if you follow them. That's not funny. Didn't say it was. Jacob set the coffee down. You're gonna hear things at night. The building's old. The generators hiccup when the rain hits a certain way. If your bell rings and no one's there, wait. If you hear tapping, do not answer. That one didn't make the list. I blinked at him. You believe me about the thing, I said. And you're giving me ghost rules. Jacob's voice went quiet. I believe something came home with you, he said. Sometimes they don't like hospitals. Sometimes they like them too much. Harris shot him a look. Jacob shrugged like a man who has given up keeping certain truths behind his teeth. The doctor changed the subject like cutting a suture, clean, businesslike. Police want another statement in the morning, he said. They'll bring your phone and laptop. Rest. When they left, the sound that was left behind wasn't silence. It was the static of all the machines in other rooms and the rain burrowing into the building's skin. And under it, there was a soft tap, tap, tap at floor level near the foot of my bed. I looked down. A bottle cap was on its edge, oscillating like it wanted to roll. It fell flat without moving. I turned the curtain closed. The fabric rasped over the rod, and the light from the hallway thinned to a throat. The rules stared until my eyelids got heavy. The next thing was a dream, except it wasn't. I wasn't sleeping. I was in that muddy place, right after you've gassed yourself awake too many times. A shape walked the hall. I saw the shadow through the notch of light under the door. It wasn't tall. It was long. As it moved, the silhouette broke into pieces and reassembled like an animal on insect legs. It stopped right outside my room. I counted fingers in my head because Rule 3 had planted a metronome in my skull. The door clicked once. Silence. The second click was slower, like someone wanted me to notice it was taking its time. I gripped the call button and felt my own sweat try and push it out of my palm. Nothing for a count of 20. Then a whisper through the wood. Not words. Breathing practiced until it sounded like language. Like the thing had watched 1,000 people pretend to be okay and learned how to mimic the parts that made other people open doors for them. I didn't open. The whisper frayed, got testy, turned into a huff like a horse at a fence. Toenails or claws scritched once on tile. The shadow slid on. I let out air I hadn't realized I'd hoarded. The monitor blipped and drew an ugly line. A smooth line. For half a second, there was no sound. The flat line was visual, not audible, like a joke for the technicians. Rule 4 pulsed. I held my breath, stared at the heart rate number. It dipped to 39. It climbed to 61. The line returned to its little mountain range. Later, a cop with damp glasses and a sharper tie than the job required showed up with my phone sealed in a clear bag. He laid it on the rolling tray like a trophy. Detective Reyes, he said, you look better. I look like the losing end of a fight with a shredder. He cracked a smile like he'd write it down later and use it at home. Animal control says raccoon, he said. You know how people exaggerate. You see something, blood loss, adrenaline, and your mind fills in teeth. Raccoons don't stand up and smile at you, I said. They don't count you. Reyes's smile went dead. Count you? Never mind, I said. It doesn't talk like we do. We took pictures, he said. The coroners that came for the carcass. The what? The carcass on your living room floor. I swallowed. The gauze fought me. Good. He didn't answer that. He slid the bag closer. Unlock that for me. I did. He scrolled. He landed on my camera roll and stiffened. He showed me. The last photo was a blur of fur and light. It was framed wrong, like I'd taken it by accident while falling. But if you force yourself to look past the blur, you could see the smile. The too many needle teeth. The empty socket like an extra mouth. There were thin white lines across the photo, like the sensor had recorded a sound instead of an image. I didn't take that, I said. You didn't, he agreed. We pulled metadata, timestamps after the paramedics kicked your door, after you were unconscious, which means either one of them took it or your house did. You trying to be cute? He rubbed his brow. No, he said. I'm trying not to write down what I think, because my boss likes promotions more than honesty. It should have felt like a win, someone saying it out loud. Instead, it made my stomach turn over. If he believed me, then we were both standing on a floor that stopped halfway across the room. After he left, Jacob came back alone. No coffee this time, no banter. He looked me over like a man checking a fence for weak boards. Pain? He asked. Less. I hesitated. What are the rules really for? He lifted the sheet of laminate off the tape and showed me the back. Scratches scored it like it had been used for something that wasn't paper. The corner had a notch. He set it on the nightstand and looked at my hand. You gonna keep your wristband? He asked. I hadn't thought about the plastic bracelet cutting into my skin. Patient name, date of birth, a barcode that probably linked to everything important about me. I touched it. The glue edge tugged a hair. Why wouldn't I? Because something will ask, he said, and it will sound right when it does. Attractive bedside manner. Better rude than dead. Around midnight, the floor did an old building trick where you can hear a gurney roll in an empty wing. Wheels without weight. It passed, stopped, backed up like someone was learning how to drive their own hands. I must have drifted because I woke to dialogue already happening, like I'd stepped into a room where people were acting like I'd been there the whole time. And your wristband's wrong, a voice said on the other side of the curtain. I thought you needed Dr. Harris for that, I said automatically before my eyes were even open. Rule 6 had burned its shape into my brain. I'm Dr. Harris, the voice said, embarrassed chuckle like he knew he sounded tired. Just misplaced my coat. Show me your fingers, I said. Silence. Not offense. Consideration, like it was flipping through a thin book and wondering if this part had been covered. The curtain moved a quarter inch. Not open. Not shut. Like a lip trying out a syllable. You're drowsy, it said. Let me fix your band. Show me your fingers. They came in under the curtain hem, slow, nails rounded, clean. One hand, for fingers visible at first, and I almost hit the call button in reflex, but then the thumb stuck out like an afterthought. 5. They were correct, except they didn't have that papery post-shift wash dryness. They were wet, dripping, not from rain, from something thicker. It pattered on the tile like the first drops of a summer storm. Hell no, I said. The fingers retreated. The curtain breathed, then went still. The handle on the door moved. Once, twice, then stopped. The monitor kept a beat. I forced myself to count with it because the counting kept my hands from shaking. The counting made me feel like a person, like someone who lives by rules and not by whims. When morning came, the idea of morning, because everything was backlit and off-white and hospital anyway. Harris walked in with his coat, with coffee, with Jacob, with a bulk in his pocket I realized was a pocket Bible. Night okay? He asked. Define okay, I said. I didn't die. That's the first definition, Jacob said. I'm not asking this to be a jerk, I said, but did you come in here at night and try to swap my band? Absolutely not, Harris said. Something did, I said. It was polite. Harris's eyes narrowed like a man listening to thunder and counting for the flash. What time? After midnight, I said. Before 2. We were suturing in trauma until 2, Jacob said. A woman fell through a glass coffee table. Everyone had enough fingers. He held up his hand like a joke, wiggled them. Harris poured out the joke with a look. Throw the post-it away, he said suddenly. I frowned. What? The note on your 4, he said. Throw it away. It's mine. It's bait, he said. If something wants you to carry a thought, it'll carry it for you. Don't let it. I peeled it off. It came away like a scab. The back was damp and smelled like the inside of a freezer, that sweet burn smell when the cold gets in your nose. I tossed it in the little plastic sharps container. It stuck to a needle and hung there like a flag. When the cops came back that afternoon, they brought a paper bag with my garage clicker. Found this by your body, Reyes said. I wasn't a body. You were body-shaped. He set the clicker in my palm. The back panel had popped half off. The batteries were missing. There was a smear of something in the compartment, dark, tacky. I lifted it and my thumb stuck, gentle suction like the clicker wanted to hold hands. I tore it free and a line of it stretched and snapped. It smelled like copper pennies and wet dog. "Don't lick that," Reyes said. "Thanks." He leaned in low. "We're putting a patrol car outside your house at night for a week," he said. "Humor me." "You think it's coming back," I said. "I think it didn't leave. I didn't sleep that day, not really. Every time my eyes closed, a shower in the adjacent bathroom turned itself on in my head, and the sound of water on tile made me think of Rule 7 and shoes that were too dry. You don't realize how much you listen for drip and squish until you're told dry means danger. That evening, a candy striper or volunteer, young, bored, the way bored is a cover for fear, came in to swap the flowers I didn't have. She clacked a vase down anyway, empty like a stage prop. Her shoes were soaked to the ankle, socks translucent, toes like wrinkled raisins. She smiled, chapped and human. "You're Ben," she said. "Night rules make you feel crazy." "They make me feel alive," I said. She shrugged. "Same thing in here." Around 1:30 a.m., the monitors on the wall outside my door all did a hiccup. Not mine, my number stayed. But through the wall I heard a nurse curse, then another, then the rolling thunder of every 4 pump calling for food. The hospital as organism gagged and tried again. I understood something then, something I think Harris hoped I'd figure out. The rules weren't proverbs. They were a net. If you pulled one, the others tightened. If you ignored one, your body slipped clean through the holes. At 2:10 a.m., I woke like a man late for a flight. I grabbed the curtain and dragged it across until the light cut off. The door handle tried twice. The second click had a little disappointment to it, like a dog denied the couch. The curtain trembled once, as if the room itself exhaled. I pulled the blanket up and made my breathing even. There was a shift at the foot of the bed, the way the mattress accepts weight, infinitesimal, like a tension, not like mass. My monitor thought about flatlining again. I held my breath and waited for the silence to go away. It did. A hand appeared over the blanket, fast. 5 fingers. Too many knuckles. It landed on my thigh like a spider, trying to be polite. I went still because stillness was the only thing I had that looked like courage. It patted me once. The fingers were cold and wet as if the hand had been in mouth. Then it withdrew. The wet rubbed off on the blanket and dried instantly, leaving a stiff patch that crinkled when I moved. At 4 a.m., I couldn't hold it. I hit the call button and asked for Jacob. He came, hair flattened on one side, with that stubborn, gentle exhaustion of a man who will be pleasant to you until his heart stops. "It touched me," I said. He checked the bandage on my neck like the sentence had instructed him to. "Where?" "Thigh." It had. I stopped myself. Counting fingers would make it real. "It's testing you," he said. "They do that when they can't smell home anymore." "What does that mean?" "It means someone locked your house, right?" he said. "Or it means it found a new one." I swallowed. "Dear." He didn't answer. Answering would have been unkind. The next evening, Reyes's patrol car idled outside while the rain went from steady to stringy. He called me on the hospital phone like we were going steady in high school. "We moved your living room furniture back," he said. "The rug was clawed up. There was hair. We bagged it." "Don't open the bag," I said. "I'm not an idiot. You want anything from the house?" "My spare hammer," I said, "in case your raccoon has friends." He laughed, honest this time. "You're either the craziest person I've met or the sanest," he said. "That's what my ex said. Bring the hammer." He did. He brought it in under his coat like contraband, like a priest smuggling bread to a locked ward. He sat on my lap, and I gripped it and felt human again, like a tool could be an argument and my hands could make a point. That night, it stopped being patient. I woke to quiet. Not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind that means someone is in the room listening for what you'll do next. My monitor was on, but the green line had turned a milky white, like a light behind fog glass. The numbers didn't change. 60, 60, 60. That wasn't a heartbeat. That was a script. "Privacy," I said. My voice sounded like a man trying to talk with his mouth full of nails. The curtain took it as an invitation. It opened. He stepped in like he'd been waiting for applause. Taller now because ceiling tiles don't bother things without ceilings. The same missing eye, the same smile full of needles that looked like kindness if you stared long enough to be changed by it. Its fur was longer than I remembered, dripping, but the drip didn't hit the floor. The drops reversed before they landed, climbing back into the hair. The air smelled like wet pennies and old dog breath left in a car. "Hey," I said, because my brain knew that friendly people live longer. It tilted its head, delighted. Its mouth didn't move the way mouths move when we talk. It moved like a zipper trying to open itself. The sound that came out pressed on the part of my ear that interprets meaning and made it misfire. "No," I said. "Not tonight." I raised the hammer. It took a step, hand out, palm up like it wanted to show me the truth of its fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth grew while I watched, a bud pushing out of the side of its hand until it was human, and that was worse than anything. Behind it, the hallway light caught shoes. 2 pairs. Dry. Nurse shoes that should have squeaked and didn't. They stopped outside my door, and their ankles shifted like they were choosing a different stance because a man with a hammer had forced them to consider him. "Mr. Langley," a voice said, "put the weapon down." "Come in and count with me," I said. The creature cocked its head farther until the movement broke the idea of a neck. Its smile widened because I had named a game and it liked games. It glanced at the door like a kid about to show a trick to their parents. It wanted witnesses. I thought of Rule 5. I thought of the breathing. I thought of holding it until your head hurts. I thought of Rule 1, that curtain, the way you could make a wall with fabric if you believed. I thought of Rule 6, that band, that little barcode leash that said I belonged here to someone who meant it. I did something that felt stupid and wrong and exactly right. I took the Post-it out of the sharps box. The corner had stuck to the needle and torn, but the words were still there, drip as stars around the eye. I slapped it on the creature's chest like a name tag. "Take your reminder and go home," I said. It looked down. Its smile faltered, not angry, confused. The reminder meant it had a place, and having a place means you stay in your place. It sniffed the paper like the paper might tell it what to do. For a second, its edges fuzzed, its fur lay down, its extra joints forgot how to be extra. The dry shoes at the door took their shot. They opened the door a notch. The creature turned its head toward them with a speed that wasn't physics. The shoes squeaked, finally, too late, and ran. The creature took a step after them. I did the other right thing. I swung the hammer at the laminated rules on the door. The plastic cracked. The edges split. The sound it made was like a fire alarm without electricity, pure metal in the head. The creature froze, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. The Post-it stuck to its wet fur like a leaf on a windshield. "Privacy," I said again louder. "Close." The curtain snapped on its rod and flung itself shut. The creature was cut in half by hospital fabric for a heartbeat, and then the other half of it slid into the room as if the curtain had traveled through the creature instead. It stood there between me and the door, staring at the rules, at the hammer, at the band on my wrist. It stared like a thing reading. I didn't wait for it to finish the page. I swung at its face. The hammer hit bone with the honest music of work. It didn't roar this time. It breathed in and out a rough bellows. It grabbed my wrist and squeezed until I thought my fingers would pop off. I brought the hammer down on its knuckles again, until my hand came free and the hammer fell with my blood on it. It backed up. The Post-it fluttered. It grabbed it with too many knuckles and crushed it like it wanted to make the words go away by rearranging them. The words didn't go away. Ink bled across fur in lines like scratches you'd make on a prison wall to count days. Behind the door, there was a prayer in a voice I recognized as Dr. Harris's, the rhythm old and human and not for me. Rule 7 crossed my mind. Shoes. Zen. I listened. The shoes in the hall were squeaking like mice. Good. The ones in here were silent. It lunged and tried to get its hand inside my mouth like it wanted to fish something out of my throat. My neck screamed. The stitches pulled. I bit, not the hand, couldn't reach, but the forearm where the hair was thin over a glossy scar. It tasted like pennies and freezer air. It yanked back, surprised that I'd do something animal to it. It made a sound then, not a roar, not a mimic. It sounded like moving a couch across carpet. That deep drag mixed with the complaint of fibers. It stepped backward toward the door. Open it, I told the room. Let it leave. The door clicked once, twice. Then it opened without hand or badge. Just that gentle hospital humility doors practice when the power fails. The creature hesitated like a deer at a fence, then flowed through, shoulders rotating in a way that would have broken me in half. I saw the back of its head for the first time. The skull was lumpy, wrong, like someone had molded it from wet clay and never fired it. A patch of skin had the texture of my own post-it note. It touched that spot with its elegant, wrong hand and smoothed it down as if remembering. Then it loped down the hall, silently, and turned the corner. Harris came in with a crash cart he wasn't going to use and a crucifix he clearly hadn't before tonight. Jacob followed with a needle. Reyes in the back with his gun half out, like even his gun didn't want to be here. "You hit it?" Reyes asked. "I gave it homework," I said. "What?" "Doesn't matter." Harris put his hand on the rules, on the laminate I'd cracked, fingers spread like a man blessing a wound in a wall. "We should move you," he said. "To where?" I said, "You got a floor it can't count to?" He didn't answer. He replaced the laminate with a spare he kept in a file folder like this wasn't his first rodeo. I watched him tape it up. The tape squealed on the plastic like a fly caught in saran wrap. "Discharge as soon as you can walk," Reyes said. "You can walk." I looked at my leg. I flexed my foot. The pain shot up like a rented electric fence. "No, we'll get you a cane," Jacob said. "Make sure the rubber tip squeaks." We didn't talk about what would happen after. We didn't talk about whether my house was home or a trap. We didn't talk about what you're supposed to do when a thing learns your rules and writes its name on your to-do list. The police came the next day and interviewed me again and tried on the raccoon story like a sweater they wished fit better. The doctor tried to get me to nap. The nurse brought me pudding like I was a child, and I ate it like a man who had done a stupid, brave thing and needed sugar. The patrol car idled. The rain slowed. The hospital's smell never changed. The hammer sat in my lap like a promise. That was 2 days ago. Since then, I've spoken to the police. I feel like they're fucking with me, just like that creature did. They're trying to convince me that it was a rabid, sick bobcat or deer or something. I know that it wasn't. The only two people who believe me are Nurse John and Dr. Harris. I think they're the only reason why I'm not getting some type of psychological evaluations. The one nice thing the police have done for me is bring me my electronics from my place, so I'm not forced to rely on hospital TV for entertainment. I still don't know what that creature was or why it wanted to kill me. All I know is that it's dead, and I know that I'm terrified of going back home now.